Before Rome's legions marched across continents, before the Republic became an empire, there was a time when its future was far from certain. In the rugged hills of central Italy, Rome faced a foe as fierce and determined as any they would ever encounter, the Samnites. This is the story of the Samnite Wars, a series of epic struggles that forged the destiny of Rome and reshaped the Italian peninsula. In the 4th century BCE, the Italian peninsula was a patchwork of city-states, tribes, and alliances. Among these, Rome had begun to rise, transitioning from a modest city-state to a growing power. Yet, their ambitions clashed with the Samnites, a confederation of warrior tribes from the Apennine Mountains. Known for their fierce independence and mastery of hill fighting, the Samnites represented a formidable obstacle to Roman expansion. The Samnites and Romans were not strangers. Initially allied against common enemies, their relationship soured as Rome's influence expanded into territories the Samnites considered their own. The tension erupted into a series of conflicts, collectively known as the Samnite Wars. The First Samnite War, Rome's first great struggle for Italian supremacy. It began with a cry for help, a city on the brink of destruction, its people turning to a growing power for salvation. In this moment, Rome answered the call, stepping onto the stage of history as a contender for dominance in Italy. But the enemy they faced was no ordinary foe. It was the Samnites, a fierce and battle-hardened people from the Apennine Hills. This is the story of the First Samnite War, the opening act in a rivalry that would shape the destiny of the ancient world. In the 4th century BCE, the Italian peninsula was a fragmented tapestry of tribes, city-states, and alliances. Rome, still a relatively small power, had been steadily growing in strength, securing its position in Latium. To the southeast, the Samnites, a confederation of mountain tribes, dominated the rugged terrain of Samnium and its surroundings. The Romans and Samnites had once been allies, cooperating against common threats. However, as Rome's ambitions extended beyond Latium, their interests began to collide with those of the Samnites. This tension came to a head over the fertile lands of Campania, home to the wealthy city of Capua, a region coveted by both powers. The war began with a cry for help from the people of Capua. Threatened by Samnite incursions, the Capuans turned to Rome for assistance. At this time, Rome's Senate faced a critical decision: intervene and risk war with the formidable Samnites, or remain passive and appear weak. Rome chose action. By accepting Capua's plea, they not only positioned themselves as protectors of Campania, but also signaled their readiness to challenge the Samnites for supremacy in the region. The First Samnite War was underway. Key campaigns and battles in the First Samnite War. The Battle of Mount Goris 343 BCE, Rome's first test. The Roman army, led by Consul Marcus Valerius Corvus, faced the Samnites in the first major engagement of the war near Mount Goris. The Samnites, skilled in guerrilla-style warfare, used the rugged terrain to their advantage. However, Rome's discipline and innovative manipular formation allowed them to adapt to the Samnites' tactics. The Roman triumph. Despite being outmaneuvered initially, the Romans secured a hard-fought victory. This battle was a crucial morale booster for Rome, demonstrating their ability to contend with a fierce and experienced enemy. 2. The Battle of Suessula 343 BCE, Rome consolidates power. Following their victory at Mount Goris, the Romans moved to secure their hold on Campania. The Battle of Suessula, another significant engagement, saw Roman forces decisively defeat the Samnites. The role of logistics. One of the key factors in Rome's success was their ability to sustain their forces through effective logistics, a lesson they had learned during previous conflicts. This logistical superiority allowed them to maintain prolonged campaigns, a hallmark of Roman warfare. 3. The stalemate at Saticula. The final stages of the war saw less decisive engagements as both sides faced challenges. The rugged terrain of Samnium proved a formidable obstacle for Roman forces, while the Samnites struggled to counter Rome's growing military cohesion. The Peace of 341 BCE, an uneasy truce. After 3 years of fighting, both Rome and the Samnites sought an end to the conflict. For Rome, the war had been a costly but ultimately successful venture. They had demonstrated their military strength and secured control over much of Campania. The peace treaty that ended the war was less a resolution and more a temporary pause. Rome had proven itself a rising power, but the Samnites were far from defeated. The stage was set for future conflicts. The legacy of the First Samnite War. 1. Rome's expansion into Campania. The First Samnite War marked a significant step in Rome's rise to power. By securing Capua and the surrounding region, Rome gained access to the fertile lands of Campania, which would become a critical resource base for their future endeavors. 2. The birth of the Roman Samnite rivalry. While the war ended in a truce, it sowed the seeds of a bitter rivalry that would span decades. The Samnites, unwilling to accept Roman dominance, would challenge Rome again and again in the Second and Third Samnite Wars. 3. Rome's growing military prowess. The war highlighted the adaptability and resilience of Rome's military. Lessons learned during this conflict, particularly in logistics and battlefield tactics, would serve them well in future campaigns. The First Samnite War was more than just a regional conflict. It was a crucible in which the young Roman Republic began to forge its identity as a military and political power. It showcased their willingness to fight for dominance and hinted at the relentless ambition that would define their history. But this was just the beginning. The Roman Republic's path to greatness was fraught with challenges, and the Samnites would return as fierce adversaries. Stay tuned as we continue this journey, exploring the epic struggles that shaped the destiny of ancient Rome. The Second Samnite War, Rome's greatest trial of strength. It was the crucible of resilience, the ultimate test of ambition. Rome, the rising power of central Italy, found itself locked in a brutal conflict with the Samnites, the master warriors of the Apennines. The Second Samnite War would last for over 2 decades, marked by stunning victories, crushing defeats, and relentless determination. This is the story of how Rome turned adversity into strength, setting the stage for its eventual dominance. After the uneasy truce of the First Samnite War, tensions between Rome and the Samnites never truly subsided. Both powers had grown wary of each other's ambitions, and their spheres of influence increasingly overlapped. The spark came in 326 BCE, when Rome's allies in Naples sought their help against Samnite incursions. By coming to their aid, Rome signaled its determination to expand its influence into Campania and beyond. What began as a localized conflict quickly escalated into a full-scale war, the longest and most grueling the Roman Republic had faced to date. The key events and campaigns. 1. The Battle of Caudine Forks, 321 BCE, Rome's humiliation. The early phase of the war saw a dramatic and devastating defeat for Rome. In 321 BCE, Roman consuls Titus Vittorius Calvinus and Spurius Postumius Albinus led their armies through the Caudine Forks, a narrow mountain pass. The ambush, the Samnites, under their brilliant leader Gaius Pontius, had set a trap. The Roman army found itself surrounded, with no chance of escape. The surrender. To avoid annihilation, the Romans were forced to surrender. The terms were humiliating. The entire army was made to pass under the yoke, a symbolic act of submission. This defeat was a turning point. It was a blow not only to Rome's military strength, but also to its pride. Yet, it also became a rallying cry, fueling Rome's resolve to never accept such disgrace again. 2. The resurgence of Rome. Following the humiliation at Caudine Forks, Rome undertook a significant military and political reorganization. New military tactics. Rome adapted its strategies, learning to fight in the mountainous terrain where the Samnites excelled. The manipular formation, which had already shown promise, was further refined to allow greater flexibility in battle. Colonial expansion. Rome began establishing colonies in strategic locations, using them as bases to secure their territories and project power into Samnium. This strategy not only bolstered their defense, but also stretched the Samnite resources thin. 3. The Battle of Lauchalae 315 BCE. Another setback. Despite their reforms, Rome faced another significant defeat at the Battle of Lauchalae. The Samnites, emboldened by their earlier successes, launched a surprise attack that routed the Roman forces. The aftermath. This second major defeat deepened the crisis in Rome. However, rather than breaking under pressure, the Republic redoubled its efforts, committing even more resources to the war. 4. The turning point. The Siege of Bovianum 305 BCE. By the final years of the war, Rome's persistence began to pay off. The decisive turning point came with the siege and eventual capture of Bovianum, the Samnite capital. The strategy. Rome's methodical approach to besieging key Samnite strongholds demonstrated their growing proficiency in siege warfare. The fall of Bovianum marked the collapse of organized Samnite resistance. Rome's victory and the Treaty of 304 BCE. After 22 years of warfare, the Second Samnite War came to an end. In 304 BCE, the terms of the treaty were favorable to Rome. The Samnites acknowledged Roman dominance and withdrew from key territories. Rome consolidated its control over Campania and expanded its influence into central Italy. The legacy of the Second Samnite War. 1. The birth of Roman resilience. The Second Samnite War was a trial by fire for Rome. The defeats at Caudine Forks and Lauchalae could have broken a lesser state, but Rome's response, rebuilding, reforming, and persisting set the template for their future successes. 2. A lesson in adaptability. The war showcased Rome's ability to learn from its mistakes and adapt to new challenges. Their development of flexible tactics and strategic use of colonies became hallmarks of their military strategy. 3. The prelude to Italian dominance. The victory in the Second Samnite War marked a significant step in Rome's rise to power. With the Samnites weakened, Rome was free to turn its attention to other rivals, setting the stage for the eventual unification of Italy under Roman rule. The Second Samnite War was more than just a contest for territory. It was a crucible in which the character of the Roman Republic was forged. The resilience, adaptability, and unyielding determination that defined this conflict would become the foundation of Rome's future empire. But the story of Rome's rivalry with the Samnites doesn't end here. Stay tuned as we dive into the Third Samnite War, the final and most epic chapter in this ancient struggle for supremacy. The Third Samnite War, Rome's final struggle for Italian supremacy. The titanic forces clashed once more. The mighty Roman Republic, rising as a dominant power in Italy, faced the resilient and proud Samnites in a conflict that would decide the fate of the peninsula. The Third Samnite War was a bloody and decisive chapter, a war that would solidify Rome's path toward unifying Italy and lay the foundations of an empire. The Third Samnite War began in 98 BCE, but its roots lay in the uneasy peace that followed the Second Samnite War. Despite their defeat, the Samnites refused to accept Roman dominance. Meanwhile, Rome's ambitions continued to grow, threatening other regional powers like the Etruscans, Gauls, and Umbrians. This time, it wasn't just a two-sided conflict. The Samnites forged alliances with other Italic tribes and even the ferocious Gauls, hoping to halt Rome's expansion. The stakes were higher than ever, and the battles were fiercer. The key events of the war. 1. The Battle of Camarínum to 98 BCE, a grim beginning. The war began with a Samnite-Gaul alliance defeating a Roman force at Camarínum. This victory emboldened the anti-Roman coalition and sent a clear message: Rome was in for a hard fight. The Gauls' arrival, the Samnite strategy of enlisting the Gauls as allies, added an unpredictable and brutal element to the conflict. Known for their savage charges, the Gauls were a formidable addition to the battlefield. Rome's response: the Romans, despite the setback, quickly regrouped. Their ability to recover from early losses would become a defining trait of the war. 2. The Battle of Sentinum to 95 BCE, the turning point. The Battle of Sentinum was the largest and most decisive engagement of the Third Samnite War. Here, Rome faced the combined forces of the Samnites, Gauls, Etruscans, and Umbrians in central Italy. The Roman strategy: Rome deployed to consular armies under the command of Quintus Fabius Maximus Rullianus and Publius Decius. They aimed to divide and conquer, forcing their enemies to fight on unfavorable terms. The battle itself: the battle was fierce and chaotic. The Gauls launched devastating charges, while the Samnites pressed the Romans on their flanks. Decius' heroic sacrifice. In a moment of crisis, Publius Decius performed a devotio, a ritualistic self-sacrifice to the gods for victory. Charging into the enemy ranks, he inspired the Roman soldiers to rally and turn the tide. The outcome: the Roman forces prevailed, crushing the coalition and effectively breaking the backbone of anti-Roman resistance. 3. The campaign against the Etruscans and Umbrians. While the Battle of Sentinum marked the decline of the Samnite coalition, Rome still had to subdue its northern adversaries. Decisive sieges: Roman forces turned their attention to Etruscan and Umbrian strongholds, employing superior engineering and relentless pressure to bring them to submission. The importance of persistence: Rome's ability to fight on multiple fronts demonstrated their growing military organization and resourcefulness. 4. The final blow: the capture of Bovianum to 91 BCE. The war's final chapter saw Rome focusing its might on Samnium itself. The capture of Bovianum, the Samnite capital, marked the end of organized resistance. The Samnites' last stand. Despite being outnumbered and outmaneuvered, the Samnites fought valiantly to the end. Their resilience earned them respect, even from their Roman foes. The aftermath: with Bovianum's fall, the Samnites were forced to sue for peace. They became subservient allies of Rome, effectively ending their role as an independent power in Italy. The treaty and its consequences. The war concluded into 90 BCE with a treaty that heavily favored Rome's dominance. The Samnites were subdued, and their territory was absorbed into the growing Roman sphere of influence. The unification of Italy. The war marked the near completion of Rome's domination over the Italian peninsula, a key step toward their imperial ambitions. The legacy of the Third Samnite War. 1. The road to empire. The Third Samnite War wasn't just a military triumph, it was a political and cultural milestone. By defeating the Samnites and their allies, Rome demonstrated its ability to unify diverse regions under its banner, albeit through force. 2. A lesson in resilience. The war highlighted Rome's unmatched resilience. Despite facing a coalition of powerful enemies, Rome's persistence and adaptability ensured their victory. 3. The evolution of Roman warfare. The conflict spurred further developments in Roman military tactics, including improved logistics, siegecraft, and battlefield formations. These innovations would serve Rome well in future conflicts, particularly against Carthage. The Third Samnite War was more than just a struggle for dominance. It was the culmination of centuries of rivalry and ambition. For Rome, it was a defining moment, a testament to their resilience, strategy, and unyielding determination. This war didn't just end an era, it began a new chapter in the history of the ancient world. But the story of Rome's rise doesn't end here. Next, we'll explore the wars that followed and how Rome's appetite for conquest reshaped the ancient Mediterranean. Stay tuned. Thank you for joining us on this journey through history. The story of the Samnite Wars is a testament to the resilience, ambition, and ingenuity of ancient Rome. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more captivating tales from the past. Let us know your thoughts below. What do you think was the most pivotal moment in Rome's rise to power? Until next time, keep exploring the fascinating tapestry of history.